Hello and welcome to Growth Strategy. Today we have a super special guest, Kira Hartley Klinger. And Kira is an author, she's a storyteller, and she's built something really cool. She has an Etsy shop with over 19,000 sales. She's written two books in her Fabric Wars series, and honestly, her journey is exactly what so many of us need to hear right now. We're talking about five big things today. We are talking about your passion doesn't always show up the way that you expect it to, that sometimes you think that you're building one thing and it turns into something completely different. And we talk about when your path takes an unexpected turn, because that is not failure. Um, that is information about how consistency reveals your purpose over time. So grab your coffee, tea, whatever you're drinking, or if you're in the car, please just drive safe. And we are going to get into it. Okay, Kira, welcome to Growth Strategy. Get more strategy at growyourstrategy.co. Tell me your story, like your origin story, how you became an author, and your progression as a writer.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Alyssa. I appreciate it. I honestly think if you ask any writer out there when they first decided to be an author, it usually goes way, way, way back. I don't think very many people make the pivot in life and say, "Oh, I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. I'm going to write books." People don't generally write books for any other reason except that they love to write. And so I have been loving to write since I was a child. I wrote a school play one time that this school put on, and I loved composition class, and I just loved writing. So I started a family pretty young, but I always felt like I could still write. I always felt like if you had it in you to write, that was just something that was there. And anyway, I spent probably 10 years trying to sell a book the traditional. I wrote contemporary novels. I had four of them. I had an agent. I had some early successes with as far as getting reads with publishing houses and whatnot, but I never sold anything. I didn't
Mm.
sell my first piece until I was in my 30s, and it was a magazine article. And then I sold one to the same editor right after the first one. It was kind of like a series. So yeah, that was my first win. But then when I was 40, a divorce happened and I was still raising the last of my kids and I couldn't really write anymore. I needed something that paid the bills. So yeah, so that's when I got involved with buying and selling. It was something that was kind of brand new. eBay was brand new. Um it was something that I could do while I was still raising my daughter, not be away from her, not, I could work around her schedule. And I was buying really cheap, stupid, ridiculous things that nobody else wanted. Just gambling. I didn't have a lot of money to waste, so it's like, well, I'll spend a
Yeah.
couple bucks, see what happens. So yeah, so I ended up being pretty good at it. One internet shop turned into two internet shops. It became my only business. At one point, I started to write little stories where the items had come from that I was buying, about the family, about the auctioneers, about the competition. Writers are people watchers. We're not just storytellers. We have to have material. So we're always kind of watching people, I feel like. And I had like the real thing right in front of me. It was all these books that hadn't been written yet. And so, yeah, these little essays started coming out on my listings. My customers started saying, "You really need to write a book." And so it was this huge full circle moment. I never thought I'd write nonfiction. Um, but it was still storytelling, so it was
Yeah.
just kind of yeah, it was weird. But anyway, big full circle moment. So I didn't publish my first book officially till I was 52, even though I probably started writing books in my 20s. I published my first book at 55, and I just published my second one this year at 57. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is so impressive. When your customer said you should write a book, was that your like aha moment that you should go back into this? Or what was kind of the moment that you took what you were using to survive and then also you mixed it with your passion to create that like catalyst and like really just get the motivation to take that next step?
And in the beginning, when people were telling me that I should write a book, I was still struggling financially. I was doing better than I was. I'd raised the last of my kids. Um, I had remarried, which surprised the heck out of me, but I did. He ended up being perfect for me. Who knew? Um, but we were, we both came from prior marriages. And so when we came together, we were both carrying our own debt. So that period of time when people were telling me you really need to write a book, we were still trying to climb out of that debt. And I was working like mad all the time, buying and selling as quickly as I could, And so I was like, oh my gosh, when am I going to find the time? When am I supposed to write a book? And it
Yeah.
appealed to me. But at the same time, I remembered what it was like spending all those years and all the hard work that I put into it, and I got nowhere. Um,
Mhm.
and I have a friend who is a very, very successful young adult author. And I reached out to her and I said, I don't know what to do with this. And so she was the one that pointed out that Amazon is a really great option nowadays. And it didn't used to be that way. When I was writing before, if you went to, they called it a vanity house, but if you went to a vanity house, a vanity press, and paid somebody to publish your work, it was shameful. It was believed that nobody believed in your work except you. Or you just didn't do that. You failed before you did that. So the fact that in this era it has become not only acceptable, but it's something a lot of people do. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I should look into that. And so I think that's kind of what sparked it. And I reminded myself that when I was raising kids and I was writing those novels, I didn't have time then either. I had a 200 customer paper route that I did with my two boys every single morning before school. We were up at 5 o'clock in the morning delivering 200 newspapers. All three of my kids were on swim team after school. And I still found time. I was cleaning houses during the day, but I would get up even before that just to write a little bit because I needed it for me. That was the me thing.
That was your
So,
time.
yeah, I was like, you know what? If my kids are raised now, certainly I don't have all the obstacles that I did then. If I found the time then, I can find it now. And that's what I did. I started making it the thing that I did first every single day. And it took a year,
Yeah.
but I got it out there and then I got another one out there. So, yeah. And
It's
now I'm
it's
at the point where I'm debt free. So, it's like now I get to really enjoy the writing part.
yeah.
But
Yes.
long climb.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm just so surprised that you were able to manage that with two little boys, like just I mean, you were doing everything that you could and you still found time in the mornings to take that time for yourself. I mean, I know I have a challenge with that, like to do anything for myself because it's like I just feel like every waking moment has to either be work or kids. And I kind of forget
Yeah.
about myself in that sense. I think it's great that you spent time every morning to just work on that and focus on something that you cared about.
It's a really good way to start your day too. I mean, even
Yeah.
now, I would go to bed at night. I'd already be thinking about what am I going to write the next day. And so it just was a really great way to start the day. You didn't have to get out of your pajamas if you didn't want to. You could sit curled up on the chair if you wanted to and just it's quiet, it's dark, the dogs are sleeping at my feet.
What is your routine when you go into writing? Sounds like there's a lot of time leading up to it, that you're already thinking about it. You're already kind of organizing things in your brain. What do you do when you sit down and you start to take action on it?
So my husband, we get up at 4:30 here. My
Wow.
husband leaves, yeah, he leaves for work at 5 o'clock in the morning. So his shift is over. He gets home about 3:30. And he always says to me, I don't know why you just don't go back to bed. And it's like, I don't know why you don't realize how hard that is not to do. Because it's exactly what I want to do, especially when it's cold. But yeah, I first thing I do when I get up is I come downstairs and I start packing his lunch. I will make him a hot breakfast and a hot lunch and have him out the door in about 25 minutes. I
Oh
mean,
my
it's just
gosh.
yeah, and a lot of it is prepping ahead of time. So I have things that are already ready to go from a previous day. Anyway, so by the time he walks out the door, I'm ready to go. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so yeah, I'll sit down. Now, I will admit, if I'm not feeling particularly inspired that morning, I have been guilty in the past of playing, 329 back-to-back games of free cell. And then I look at the clock. I'm like, all right. Because I only have so much time. I have to get my shipping done, and the mailman comes at 11. So it's like being in school. The alarm rings, and this is it.
Yeah.
So you only have this amount of time to write. So I try really hard not even to pull up the games and get distracted. I also try very hard the day before to leave off where it's easy to pick up. Stopping in the middle of writer's block the day before is like the worst thing you can do. It could be weeks, months before you pick it back up again. So
Yeah.
I try to like end in the middle of a thought, but I'll leave a trailing sentence so I know exactly where it was that I was going, or I might leave something in parentheses, the full thought that was in my brain, so that when I sit back down the next morning, it's super easy to pick it back up.
That's smart.
And I don't worry about editing. I don't worry about grammar. I don't worry about any of that. I just go. That stuff comes later. I just write. Yeah. And if I get 1,000 words out, I'm happy with myself. If I get 5,000 words out, I'm like, woohoo. So
Yeah. Are you a pen and paper person, or do you type everything on your laptop, or?
I type it on my laptop, but I have random thoughts. In my books, there's a lot of life things woven into the stories. Like I can't answer a question without telling a story. And so when I'm talking about a person that I've met, there's always something that happened in my life that for some reason they go together in a weird sort of ways. My stories usually start out with some sort of anecdote. I love anecdotes. But I mean, there's one story that starts out talking about my appointment at the dentist, and somehow that gets woven into an estate sale. It just they held hands at some point and it fits together. But anyway, so throughout the day, I'm famous for pulling up my phone and writing something down,
Mm.
just a sentence, a one line or something. The problem is I'm not terribly proficient, I guess is the word, on technology and phones. So you're going to find those notes on the same notepad that you're going to find my grocery list, my upcoming doctor's appointments, my upcoming podcast interviews. I mean, and they're all separated by a few spaces. So it's like, oh, there it is.
It's just a
So
to-do list. Yes. Finish the sentence.
it's never
That's
ending.
Oh, that's
But
funny. That's
yeah. But when I
I've
started, I was on a manual typewriter, with
oh,
whiteout and the whole 9 yards because, yeah, computers were kind of new and they were there, but I was poor. My first
yeah.
computer was a hand me down from my sister. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
It's nice to have that click clacking of a typewriter. It honestly is. It's so we used to have one as a kid when I was a kid, and I loved that. It's so satisfying to hear it.
Well, the thing is that when you learn on a manual typewriter, it takes such effort to push a key. And so because that's all I ever knew, I'm really heavy-handed on the computer. And my husband always like, "Dang, girl, you're gonna break that thing." Because I still type really hard.
Yeah.
So,
That's fun.
old habits die hard, right?
Yeah. You worked really hard before something was published, and this is still very much a passion. It's very, like, innate in you. Like, if this is your purpose, I think, like, as an artist, whether it's painting or writing or whatever, like, I think that you can never take that away from somebody. So how did
Mhm.
you but it still doesn't mean it doesn't get hard. So how did you keep at it when it got hard and you kept kinda having these no's?
I think putting it away for a little while, where they say absence makes the heart grow fonder, you know, I think it was kinda necessary for me to put it away for a little while, but the magazine articles, they happened probably within a few years of putting it away. We had a really big move. And so I was no longer doing all the side jobs that I used to do. And we were kind of starting over. My daughter was 10 at the time, and she had a passion for horses. And I had a passion for horses when I was a kid. I had horses when I was a kid. So I kind of was soft towards the whole idea. There was where we lived, it wasn't conducive to having horses, and horses are very expensive. So what I did instead, I got her and myself, we signed up to volunteer at an equestrian therapy center so she could work with the horses, she could learn about horses, she could learn the importance of helping other people. I tried really hard to make sure all my kids had some sort of volunteer work behind them when they were growing up. So this kind of fit the bill. And she took to it so well. We were there like 4 nights a week. She always wanted to be there. So
Mhm.
I was inspired by it, And the first thing when a writer does when they get inspired, they want to write about it. And so I did.
Yeah.
And I started writing to like horse magazines about this experience. And it actually sold to the first magazine I sent it to. And it was kind
Wow.
of interesting because once upon a time, somebody said to me, write what you know. And I never really quite understood what that meant. I was writing contemporary novels in my 20s and my 30s, and I was making up stories that surrounded a life that looked an awful lot like my life. And I'm like, well, I'm living this life. I know about these things, making it up as I go. But it didn't quite click what that person meant until I sold that magazine article. And then I realized,
Oh.
okay, there was a level of conviction in what I sent to them. It was believable. It was something I knew.
Yeah.
So
It
and
was
that I was
relatable.
passionate about.
Yeah.
Um and so there was a follow-up piece for it because my daughter did end up getting a horse. When I reflected back on it, a lot of the comments that I would get back from editors and publishers and even agents before I had an agent, was that I didn't have any publishing credits. And so I published those magazine articles. I'm like, I have credits now. Now I can try again. And of course,
Hmm.
I still have my old manuscripts, and so it was on my brain. I can try again. I've got these credits now. Who knows? But then I got
Yeah.
divorced, and there wasn't time or money. I had to think about supporting myself, supporting my daughter. So yeah, I had to put it away again, and until it came knocking at my door again. It wasn't going to leave me alone. So
Yeah. Then how did you know it was time to go back into it, like full force?
I think once I started writing, like seriously writing, it was like I never stopped. It came a lot easier than I thought it was going to get back into it. I had to learn a lot of new things though, even though I'm not broke anymore and I'm in a financially really good place right now. I think that you spend so many years being broke that you always kind of operate out of a broke mindset. I didn't want to pay somebody to do the work for me on my book. So
Yeah.
I am not a techie person at all. My husband bails me out in that department.
Yeah.
But I taught myself how to format. I did pay somebody to format my cover because it scared the tar out of me. I
Hmm.
got through the formatting of the book and nearly threw my computer across the room every single day. So when they started talking about this is how you format your cover, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And, you know, and my sister told me about Fiverr. And yeah, a really sweet woman from Italy did my first cover for me. Now my best friend painted it, but she formatted my first cover for me for $75, and that was just a big fat no-brainer.
Wow. That's
Um,
awesome.
but it just
Amazing.
I don't know. It's like I wonder how I lived without it before. But even at saying that, I was still writing while I was working. I just didn't really realize that it was going to go somewhere. I was just, hey, this thing happened, and you just want to talk about it. The husband gets tired of hearing the stories over and over. It's like I got to tell somebody,
Yeah. That's perfect for this then, because we want to hear it.
right?
Awesome. Okay. Then what is a piece of advice that you would give to somebody? So now you're on like the other side of everything and you've been through a lot where it kind of feels like you just feel stuck and you keep trying and the needle isn't moving, but
Yeah.
you're persistent and you're passionate and you know that this is like your purpose. So what's something that you would give to somebody that feels like stuck in that cycle?
Stuck is very real. It is so very real. But honestly, if it's in the heart, I used to always think to myself, I'm going to regret one day if I don't write again. And when
Mm.
my friend published her first book, which did astoundingly well and is still doing well, oh gosh, I don't know, it's been 8 years later, something like that. But I was happy for her, but man, was I jealous,
Yeah.
because it was just, I was like, oh, this is what I always wanted for me, and I shouldn't have quit. And it's always there. And yeah,
Yeah.
don't have that big fat regret. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I did it through being broke. I did it through raising kids. I did it through a divorce. I did a big, fat, huge pivot and went from writing fiction to writing nonfiction and accepted the fact that I was still telling stories. So it still felt authentic to me.
Changing your
Yeah.
perspective on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the grit has to be real. The dedication has to be real, or the dream's not going to be real.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was amazing. That's amazing. Kira, wow. Okay. Thank you.
Well, no, I'm glad
I'm
you
like
had me on.
speechless. That's amazing. I just like, yeah, I really appreciate that. Now it just kind of might just be a little different sometimes, but just having patience and knowing what your passion is, it's important.
Yeah. Well, and someday things are going to come full circle for you again in this area, like they did for me. And someday you're going to have grandkids, and things are going to look a whole lot different all over again.
Yeah. You mean
Yeah.
a different perspective. Yeah.
It's a
It's the
different
cool
perspective, and yeah.
It's definitely the cool thing about aging because now I understand my parents a lot better now that I'm a parent. And I understand the reasons, the choices that they made that I was maybe frustrated at the time or I didn't see, I didn't understand. And now it's just like, okay, this is an act of love, everything's for your children. So thank you so much, Kira. I want to stay in touch with you. You're so amazing.
Sure. I mean, I'm connected
Okay.
on your social media now. I love this.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm so excited to announce that I'm launching a weekly live session where we connect, talk growth strategy, and answer your marketing questions. Think of it as your virtual co working hour, and we can just talk about growth, pop culture, or what you are going to eat for lunch. Subscribe at growyourstrategy.co, and I'll send you the schedule so you'll never miss a session. And you'll get reminders for when we're going live so we can connect in real time. In the meantime, add me at growyourstrategy on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe now. Let's grow together. Kira, I loved having you on the show so much. And I hope it is what you as a listener needed as well. Because, here's the thing, your story matters, even when it's messy, even when you're still figuring it out. If you're a woman building something, whether it is a business, a project, a side hustle, like whatever that you want to do, you do not have to have all of it figured out. All right. This is your sign. Please do not have everything figured out. You need to start. That's what you need to do. So you need to start and fail and learn and see what's out there. You don't need a perfect plan at all. You just need to know where you think you want to go. And you start trying. So here is your challenge for this week. Do one thing that you have been putting off and start where you are. And if you want to check out Kira's her book, Fabric Wars, is on Amazon. So you search for Kira Hartley, and her Etsy is Dodd Oddity. That is DODODDITY. And she has 19,000 sales. Like, she's crushing it on there. So please go check out her Etsy shop. Um, and if you want more from us, go to growyourstrategy.co. You can also join our free growth strategy club on Mighty Networks and subscribe if you have not yet. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. So keep building, keep showing up, and keep growing. I'm Alyssa Evans. Thanks for listening.